Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live stream. How are we doing? Happy Friday. What is happening in your world? Let me know. Guess actually I can actually see my dark circles. I was up. I was up not quite very late. I was up until like 1:32, which was later than I wanted to be. And then I stayed up a lot of the night because Bandit, I don't know, there was something outside that was spooking her, and she really wanted me to know about it, and she was very antsy all night and kept waking me up to go outside and go check things out. And like I was like, does she have to go to the bathroom? Is she like sick? Like I didn't really put two and two together that it was just like, I don't know, there was something in the yard last night or whatever. So I didn't get very much sleep. So you have to forgive me if I happen to be a little bit out of sorts, but I'm feeling ready and excited to stream. So she sees squirrels all the time. Like we have like very distinct squirrels. We have a blonde squirrel that is some kind of like, I don't know if it's like a partial albino or what. We have a blonde squirrel. We have a whole like the whole nest of regular squirrels, and we have a squirrel with a bobtail. Like, I don't know if it got caught by a cat or a trap or what. We have like a whole set of like routine squirrels that she has truces with for the most part. So I don't think it was that. I think usually if she's that kind of panicked and like barking, like alarm barking about something in the yard, it's some kind of unusual creature that she's not used to seeing. Like maybe a big cat came through. I don't know what else would be like. We still have snow on the ground here. I didn't see any like weird footprints or like anything in the yard. So I don't know what. I honestly have no idea. But she's normally she's a very smart doggo. So if she thinks something is up. What was for girl dinner? I know I had girl dinner today. I made myself a vegan ham and cheese toasty, and I had half a container of yogurt. It's like the most like, I feel like that's the most like mom meal ever, is like having half a sandwich and half a yogurt. I'm like just like peak like going to my office. Oh, I just packed myself a little sandwich and a yogurt for work. Oh, raccoon. We do have possums here. It could be a possum. I haven't seen the possums for a while, though. Do they hibernate? I have no idea. I feel like they would hibernate, but maybe they don't. I didn't see anything that was, like, super different, though. The reason you didn't see footprints is because that's when Bendita carried you. It is true. She did carry me. It's like, oh, God, it's like my favorite, like, thing ever. I love memeing on that. Love that, of the whole like, you know, God, the people who don't know what that's a reference to because maybe you didn't grow up religious. There's a famous, I don't know if it's like originally a poem or like, I always remember seeing it in like 90s artwork of like, you know, I was walking on the beach and I only saw like, I saw two sets of footprints where God walked beside me. And then there were times there was only one set of footprints, which was, you know, and I thought in those times, God, why did you abandon me? Why weren't you walking with me, God? And then it's like, I was actually carrying you the whole time, you ungrateful son of a bitch. And that is what that's all. That's what that's all about. It is good to stay hydrated. Also, coyotes. We have really high fences. I know coyotes are good jumpers, but these are like, they're tall fences. So it's not impossible. But again, I didn't see any. I guess they could be prowling around. Maybe, I don't know if the snow would limit their food access and make them come closer to a neighborhood. The only time I ever saw a coyote was at the very, like, in the neighborhood, was at the very beginning of the pandemic when there was no one around. Like, I saw there was a coyote that was wandering the neighborhood simply because there was no one out. And they were like, has the apocalypse happened? Is it time for the coyotes to take over? Like, they were ready. They were very prepared. What's your favorite vegan yogurt? My favorite vegan yogurt, for practical nutritional reasons, my favorite yogurt is, I think it's the Kite Hill Greek yogurt style almond milk yogurt. And it's a mix, it's almond milk with soy protein added, and that has like a really good amount of protein in it, and it's very tart. So if you like a tart yogurt, I think it used to come in other flavors, but now it only comes in plain unsweetened and vanilla unsweetened. There's not really that much of a difference between the two. But it's really good if you want to add some like really sweet jam, or like if you put like, normally what I do if I've gotten in a habit of doing this, where if you have like even just like frozen fruit, you can defrost it, and then you put some like, if you have like half a cup of fruit, I do like maybe like a teaspoon or two of sugar, sprinkle it on top, leave it in the fridge overnight before you plan to have the yogurt, and you have like sort of a sweet syrupy fruit mix to put on top of the yogurt, and it goes with the tart and the sweet together are really good. But that's my favorite yogurt. And then my favorite to eat is like just flavor wise, I don't know where they had it in Seattle, and I haven't found it here, but at Whole Foods they sold this like really really thick like chocolate probiotic coconut yogurt, and that shit was the bomb. That was the best. I mean, it's 2024. Nothing is surprising at this point. That is true. I feel this way about people and also about life in general. You gotta just take people as they are. Like, look at their actions, look how they behave, right? And there's complexities in people's behavior. Like, it's not to say that, like, people are just like, simple universally, but, like, if somebody is always telling you one thing, or society is always telling you one thing, but it never actually ends up happening, and then they keep performing something different, right? Like, the world keeps being fucked up, instead of trying to go with the version of reality that's dictated by their words, go by the version dictated by the actions, and then you will stop feeling as many pangs of disappointment. That's like, I feel like that's more morose than I mean it to be. It's meant to be more just like, I think we get very invested as people in like at least for me, I get very invested in wanting to understand other people, and I want to know where they're coming from, and I try to anticipate like what they're going to do, and then like why they do what they're doing. And like sometimes there are just people, and there's situations in life where you're like, why did they do this? I just don't understand. They've told me they're blah, blah, blah kind of person, and they're doing XYZ thing that to me runs totally contrary to their self-opinion of who they are. So make that make sense. It's like, well, you can't, because they're a different person. They have their own self-concept that's separate from you. And sometimes you just gotta believe people when they show you who they are, as the famous quote goes. Yes, exactly. Thank you for hanging out every week. That definitely does contribute. Okay, so we've been chit-chatting for a minute here, which I love to do. Let's go ahead and get into some of the basics y'all need to know about the stream in case you're new here, joining us from recent videos, or maybe the live stream we did earlier this week on Tuesday, which, by the way, not anything official as of yet, but I will tell you, if you like the live stream we did spontaneously-ish on Tuesday, there are ideas in the works to make that a regular thing at some point, some interval, likely one Tuesday every month. That may become a more regular occurrence on this channel. So if you like that, you can stick around, and you can subscribe. You can also join the chat if you subscribe. If for some reason you found this and are not subscribed to my channel, hello. But that's good to know. Besides that, this is an 18 plus only live stream, because we talk about various adult topics like kink, BDSM, sexuality, polyamory, dating apps, and so on and so forth. Obviously, people that are not adults can also date and be queer and do other things as well, like we discuss here, but I just don't think it's generally a good idea to mix giving advice about these topics and minors and adults all together in the same place at the same time. So if you're not at least 18, please don't be here. It's for everyone's safety. Yours, mine, the chat, my channel, everything, just across the board. Safety is the name of the game, because social media is a minefield. We also have rules and an FAQ down below if you want to go and check that out. We have lots of links to resources for common questions. I have not really had to say this so much in recent years, but for like the first 2 years I was streaming, I got the same questions a lot. And I feel like we're in a place now where we have so many good videos about more basic topics to where this is a good space to dive into more like specific questions, personal issues, maybe clarifications from things I've said in videos, so on and so forth. So go ahead and ask away. But if you want links to quick resources related to common questions like how do I tell my boyfriend I want to try BDSM, where can I buy a vlogger, so on and so forth, link to that is in the description box. And then basically just be kind, respectful, listen to the mods, don't spam the chat, like to ask a question at least. If you want to spam the chat with like, you know, hearts, or like your dog is cute, that's fine. let that one slide. But if you ask the same question 10 times in a row, I'm not going to answer it. But mostly we are here to answer questions and hang out and have a little Q&A sesh. So ask your questions early and often. That is what I like to go by here because I go in order. So if you are here, I mean, for the most part, I'm not perfect about it, but I recommend asking now because it makes it so much more likely I will see your question and answer it, and then I try to give people an opportunity to ask again towards the end and do follow-ups and things as well. I also love hearing follow-ups if I have given you advice at a previous point in your life during a stream and you're like, hey, 3 months ago you told me that I should try to do this thing with my partner and we did it. And here's how it went. Like, I love hearing updates. So lay the updates on me if you feel like it. Or not. You know, that's your personal life. I'm the one who's a public figure. So, you know, you have under no obligation whatsoever to disclose anything personal. But that's basically what y'all need to know. I feel like my camera is lower than usual. I think I want to take a second to figure that out because it's going to bother me. And there's something that I just hate about like, having extra headspace at like the top of the frame. Also, I think I found a good light setting, at least for like this room for the lights. So enjoy that if you want. What is the typical number of people in a poly relationship? Like all co-dating each other simultaneously as a unit, probably 3. But like polyamory is less typically about like people simultaneously dating each other as a collective and more about different people dating different people independently from each other, which is why we have polycules, like a molecule, right? You know, like the different connections and branches of it. So that's where polycule comes from. If you didn't know, it's a little nerdy little science reference there. And I would say probably the average size. I've seen research. I talked about this in a video actually. One of my videos about polyamory, and it was about like people were complaining that polyamorous relationships don't last, and I found research, and it talked about the average size of a polycule and then average number of years for each relationship, the first one and then subsequent ones. And I want to say that the average number of relationships for a polyamorous person, like simultaneous, like, so if it's one person, they would be dating like 2.5 people, I think is average, like something like that. Like it's not as many as you might think, because you have people that are polyamorous with one partner and you have people that are polyamorous that have 10, and you know, just that's how averages work. that's how that concept happens. Ooh, mango lassis are so good. I've not had a mango lassi in a long time because I've never found somewhere that makes them vegan, but I would love for that to be a thing. Okay, I think I just moved my, like, I have like a cushion because this chair is very large. You can't really see from here, but it has a wide flared base on on this chair. And it's like, it's great for people who are taller, I imagine, and larger than me. This is not really a me-sized chair. This is a gamer chair for sure. How's everyone doing lately? Tired, but doing all right. Going through a lot of deep life stuff. Hopefully that ends up going well. Oh, yep. Burnout, 24/7 high protocol was not sustainable, and I'm honestly surprised we lasted as long as we did. Yeah, a lot of, we talked about that on another stream, I think, but just for people, just to, you know, have this as like a little topic to bring up, because something that I'm passionate about discussing is as I've ranted about a time or two before in videos, at least in part, in BDSM, in especially power exchange relationships, I'll say, like broadly, there is a tendency to want to go to the deepest level of power exchange, maybe not as quickly as possible, but like as an ideal goal. Like the point of power exchange is to go deeper and deeper and deeper until like you've given up all of your autonomy to this other person, or given up all, you know, control over certain parts of your life to somebody else. And like, especially initially, that can be very hot and very interesting and, you know, be very engaging. But it turns out it's very difficult for most people to, as the dom, be the manager for an adult person's entire life, and then also like maintain that dynamic, especially while living together and being romantically and sexually involved at the same time. I think it's different if you are maybe, you know, you have a relationship with the pro dom and like you're one of their house submissives, or if you have a relationship that's like 24/7 but only on the weekends, or if you have a relationship where you're somebody's sub or you're their dom but you're not dating a romantic or sexual, like you don't have that kind of like intimate bonding outside of BDSM. I think it can be easier to go along. But I would say 90. I think I said 75 at some point, but I'm revising that to 90. 90% of the people I know that have high protocol relationships, that have 24/7 power exchange relationships, almost all of them have a pathway that looks much more like building up the power exchange, having a huge peak of like really intense power exchange, slowly coming back down, crashing really hard because, oh my God, the relationship is falling apart. What are we going to do? And then like slowly working it back up to like a newer, more sustainable model that usually involves either a reduced amount of control in certain areas, less power exchange overall, some kind of time limitation maybe, or maybe finding power exchange is something you want to do in other relationships and not in this one. So, but for whatever reason, kind of just you end up going really far one way, and then you end up correcting back into like a more sustainable long-term path. I would argue this is not something that is uncommon, even in
Mr.
vanilla
Beansman donated
relationships.
$5. Hey Evie, I'm starting to realize punishments wouldn't be effective in my new dynamic. Any advice for having rules without punishments? I feel like I don't need a lot of negative reinforcement, because if I found out I disappointed Miss I'd feel terrible.
Okay, so punishments are not effective in a new dynamic. Any advice for having rules without punishments? I feel like I don't need a lot of negative reinforcement because I found out I disappointed Miss. I feel terrible. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to finish up this thought and then we will answer that question. By the way, if you want to make sure I answer your question, the best way to do that is with a super chat. You can do that down below. Or you can do that, basically I said down below, but what I mean is specifically, see, I told you I was tired. Streamlabs, which is linked down below, or through YouTube. Both ways, it'll highlight up here. It'll read the chat out, at least depending on how much you donate. And then you just skip to the front of the line. It's great stuff. But to wrap up this thought about, you know, even in vanilla relationships this happens. Obviously, vanilla relationships definitionally don't involve power exchange, because if you have power exchange, it's like a consensual BDSM thing. That's kinky. So you're therefore not vanilla. And maybe you roleplay being vanilla, which is a thing. But I'm saying that in a funny way, but I mean that sincerely. You can roleplay being vanilla, and it's funny, and it's like my favorite thing to joke about doing. But in vanilla relationships, this path of like sort of maybe like tepid build up very quickly, like, you know, going on an escalator of like really more intense experiences, and then like that being really fun and amazing and wonderful, and then like something maybe sparking a downturn and then going down and then crashing and burning and having a panic and then slowly coming back up to the new more sustainable thing. That is pretty much exactly what happens to a lot of people's sexual relationships, even vanilla ones. You get that sort of initial, depending on the person, obviously, that initial sort of cautious, like, is it okay if I want to try to kiss her period? You know, maybe for the first couple of dates or so, where you're kind of figuring things out. And then you get into the first couple of sexual experiences, and then oh my gosh, they're the best person ever. We have amazing chemistry. We're totally synced. We don't have to talk about anything. We just do it. We just go with the flow. No communication necessary. It's totally amazing, wonderful. And then you have repeatedly really great experiences, but that initial novelty wears off. That initial, more, I'm going to say the word infatuary. I don't know if that's a word. The more infatuary interest as opposed to, or like limerence based interest, maybe, for example, as opposed to like a more sustainable sort of attraction to someone. That initial spark of highest excitement. And then when that wears off and it changes, a lot of people panic about that and they go, oh my God, I'm losing attraction to them. Sometimes not even consciously thinking it, but it comes out in like performance issues, orgasms that used to be reliable aren't anymore, so on and so forth. And then, people crash and burn, and then they go on r/dead bedrooms, and they read the books, and they go to Google. And this is actually something that's talked about in the book Hot and Unbothered, which I read a couple months ago. And I really like that book. It's the author's personality is very infused throughout the book. So if you read like a chapter, get it, go to the Barnes and Noble, read a chapter, just see if you like her voice first before you buy it, because it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. But if you do like what the author has to say, there's a section there that talks about this issue of the transition stage of a sexual relationship from that initial novel, exciting time period, which, by the way, can last for like a long time. Like, it's not just like months, we're talking years it can last. And then having that transition where I think the way that they talk about it is like you have this initial like kind of very cloying closeness together where you're like, the intertwining is so exciting because it's new, and you want to do everything together all the time, and then you lose interest in your outside hobbies. You don't go to do things anymore. You kind of leave friends in the dust sometimes, or family. Other things go by the wayside to spend time being, frankly, enmeshed with this new person. And then at some point in the relationship, there is usually a period where one partner or both start to kind of wiggle away a little bit. And that can be really scary because, oh my God, things are changing. The relationship is changing. We're losing what was our previous comfortable closeness. And they want to go hiking. I hate hiking. They want me to go to a basketball game with them. I hate that. I've never watched basketball before in my life. Or like I've had season tickets to watch the Mariners and I never get to go anymore. I think the Mariners suck now, so maybe that's not a good example. But whatever it is, they get that opportunity to evaluate their relationship in a new light, and that process of like, going from individual to couple to individuals in a couple. Does that make sense? By the way, I see there's a new super chat, so it'll probably pop up on screen here. But there's individuals, then there's becoming a couple, and then there's being individuals in a couple. And that process of becoming individuals in a couple, as opposed to a couple, which is sort of like, we're splitting hairs linguistically, but I'm trying to say things that maybe make the idea make sense in your brains. Because I think it can be a little bit hard to be like, what's the difference there? But in that separation process, you can crash and burn, and the relationship dissolves. This is why a lot of relationships end at like year 1, year 2-ish, because that's when people realize, oh, now that I've kind of gone through that period of closeness, I actually don't really like being around this person, or I miss the things that are really important to me that they hate, and I can't be a separate person and still be with them at the same time. So I think it's individualization, something like that. I forget what the word is in the book, but that concept is in there. They talk about this process of becoming separate people again, that you have that comfortable nest to explore from, you have that secure attachment, or going towards secure attachment, or something, getting close to it as the goal, because secure attachment is difficult for a lot of us to obtain, especially in this day and age, but you work towards that to have that space. Thank you, Love Monster. I appreciate the super chat. Thank you. I saw that super chat and lost my train of thought. Oh, yes. So that process can be painful and difficult, but it allows you to become that separate person where you can go out and go to the painting class, go to the pottery class, go watch the game with the boys or with the ladies, and then come home and then still be with your person and enjoy that spent time together, but also enjoy the individual time too. And I feel like a similar phenomena happens in kink, where it's with power exchange specifically, but it's still that like you get really, really close and really, really enmeshed, at least with power exchange. And when you separate from the power exchange and start to maybe become more individualized again, that can be really scary, because how do you make a power exchange relationship work while also being individualized people? Because that runs really counter to a lot of people's ideas of what you have to do in power exchange. Like, you have to be enmeshed, you have to be of one mind and one body and one person basically, and like you are simply an extension of somebody else. And like, either you have to find a way to like get back to that place and stay there, or you have to forge a new path that is more flexible to that psychological reality, at least for most people. How would a younger you react to your videos right now? I don't know if I was watching them, like, I feel like I would think it's cool as hell. I think I'd be like, that wasn't what I thought I was going to be doing at all, but like, it's pretty good. I think I'm always very like self-critical about my videos, and I'm very consciously making a decision for 2024 to, I have, because now I have a new camera, which is really the like stopping point of like making better videos, because I couldn't do anything interesting in them visually at all, because anything like wearing a necklace would make my camera defocus. So now that I have a better camera set up and I have like a better lighting situation figured out, I really want to work on like building not really a set area, but like having like an interesting background. I'm getting some kind of like behind the scenes practice using a teleprompter, and I'm hoping that, you know, moving forward by like February, I'm going to be filming videos using a teleprompter, and that's going to make the whole process better. The videos are going to be better. I'm going to actually say more of what I say in the scripts and how I say it, because I feel like my, if you can call it a talent, my talent is not in like, you know, verbal presentation, right? See, just what I did right there. My talent is not in verbal presentation. I'm not, like, I wasn't a drama kid. I wasn't a theater nerd. Any of the things you think that like most YouTubers have in their life before they get into doing YouTube, I had none of that. I'm not interested in that. I'm mostly a writer. I enjoy writing. I love researching, and that's what I excel at, and that's what I'm good at, and I want that to translate more into the videos that I make and the end product. So yeah, I think I'd be like, oh, that's really cool. Maybe we should major in something different. That's like, but at the same time, I like that's the not a monkey's paw issue, but that's, you know, maybe the butterfly effect of like, well, if I change anything at all about my school experience, do I end up not finding the kink community? Because like me finding kink was very linked to my early adulthood and like being in college. And if I had gone to a different school, if I had majored in something different, if I had met different people, I don't know if I would have ended up like discovering kink in the way that I did. And like, I think I would have always discovered kink at some point in relationships. I don't think I necessarily would have gotten involved in the community. So thank you. I'm glad that you like the lights and the chair. It's very... I have like a bunch of stuff on my floor right now, and like the dog is making noise. I'm like worried she's gonna step on something. Okay. Questions. Okay, yes, Mr. Beansman's question about punishments. How to have rules without punishments. I know that I have a video talking about this. I can't remember where if the name of the video. I feel like I have like a video, at least it's called like alternatives to physical punishment. So if you haven't seen that, I would recommend starting there. It's probably, I feel like I can remember the thumbnail. I'm going to guess it's probably like 2 years old, probably maybe 3 even. But it's relatively recent, like 7 years old, because now I have videos that are old enough to be in elementary school. Oh my God, that's insane to think about. But I would start there, and I am right there with you. So I guess today's theme, we're kind of talking about power exchange a lot, which I love because it's one of my favorite things to chat about. But, you know, speaking of things that kind of butt up against fantasy and reality, this is one of the other big things that people struggle with in power exchange relationships, because just like there is that common goal to like always be going deeper and deeper in power exchange, punishments are seen as like implicitly linked to power exchange. Like a lot of people do not understand how you could have power exchange without punishments. And I will say on an individual level that can be true. Some people, the way their brains work, how they relate to things like discipline, if they don't have punishments, they don't have like, I know that if I do X thing, Y punishment will happen. They don't have that. Power exchange does not work for them. So that I will recognize in general as being valid. But I think a lot of people, maybe not a majority, but a sizable non-vocal minority of people do not get along with punishments. And I'm one of those people. I do not, at least in the physical sense of it. I've had negative experiences of punishments in my relationships. I do not really want to repeat them. And I learned years ago that that wasn't something I needed to have to make my power exchange work. So because I am someone that is very internally motivated as opposed to externally motivated, that's what I recommend, at least for me, acting on in power exchange. And based on kind of what you said and, other things you've talked about before, I think that you are like me in that you are internally motivated to do a good job. And you don't want to disappoint people. You don't want to break the rules. So instead of punishments, what I would recommend is positive correction. And there's a line between punishment and positive correction, but think about it like criticism, right? There's being mean and then there's criticism. And what we're aiming for is more criticism. Like, let's say, and this is just a random example, let's say that your dominant partner tells you to wash the dishes. Or like, maybe let's say they tell you to load and run the dishwasher. And, you haven't used a dishwasher before, you're not familiar with what their loading process is normally like, you're not sure if they believe in rinsing dishes first or pre-washing, you don't know any of that stuff. So you do it to the best of your ability, and you do it the way that you would do it, and you run the dish, the cycle, and you do everything else, and then before you put the dishes away, your dominant partner comes over to inspect the work that you have done. And then they look at the dishes and go, oh, there's like the water spots here, and this still got dried on food here. You did this wasn't the job I expected. We're gonna have to redo this, and I'm going to show you how to load the dishwasher properly. And that can be very, very disappointing. It can be very hard on people. The punishment version of reacting to that is you loaded the dishwasher incorrectly. The dishes didn't get cleaned properly. So now you're going to get 20 lashings. You're going to write lines 100 times that say, I will not misload the dishwasher, whatever, right? Pick your flavor of punishment, something like that, right? However, the positive correction, which I don't know what I've referred to this as in previous videos, but this is what I'm calling it now. But positive correction would be understanding, okay, let's look at this constructively together. How did we end up here so we can avoid repeating this again? Because in certain dynamics, you want there to be punishment happening to a certain extent, because you like feeling like people can like feeling like, they never match up to expectations. They always have something to strive for. They like the context that punishment gives them for things like power exchange and, physical interactions. But not everyone wants that. So if you don't want that and you are legitimately trying to minimize the amount of times you are doing something, okay, let's look at this, front to back. What is happening? How does this happen? Well, issue number one was on the dominant, right? They didn't give proper, thorough instructions on how they wanted the dishwasher to be loaded or the particulars of their dishwasher, right? Like, oh, this dishwasher, it's like 20 years old, doesn't run super great. So no matter what kind of dishes you're washing, you have to use the highest setting, and then you have to hand wash like the plastic, reusable containers or whatever. That would have been pertinent information that wasn't provided. So step one usually involves understanding the initial communication failures that led to, or failures of expectation that led to what went wrong going wrong. And then you look at the actions that happened in the moment, right? Was there forgetfulness? Was an instruction missed or not fully understood? Was something happening that both parties thought they were doing it the right way or had communicated something correctly, but then they had their own individual way of doing it, or they had different ideas of what the goals were? A lot of it is going to just be talking through what's going to need to be done in the future. And sometimes it's also going to be the dominant showing you how they want it to be done, right? Like, if it, go back to the dishwasher example. My throat is really dry today. Holy guacamole. I'm really gonna have to take a break after answering this question. I'm about to go run and get some more water, but we'll get there when we get there. So you walk through actually doing the task over again, right? Okay, this is how I want this to be done. This is actually really great for like DDLG relationships. Where like you literally can do it like by hand. Like I have a tape measure I'm playing with on my desk, and you go, all right, so when we use the tape measure, you hold it like this, and then you click down in this little tab here to lock it, and then you read from this end, okay, and then blah blah blah. Like you walk through step by step every way of how to do it, and you literally put your hand over their hand and show them how to do it, right? This is how we fold a blanket, this is how we fold socks. Or whatever it happens to be. And that can be very, very effective. If you are more of the, service persuasion, not really so much a little, that could be giving very detailed instructions, like written instructions, text message, email copy, paper copy, if you like. Do it in calligraphy if you're getting really fancy about it. But, have very, very set instructions of like, this is our procedure we are establishing for handling this particular task. And hopefully that will reduce the amount of failure. And by the end of this, instead of it being a punishment, it will feel productive and be productive because you have worked towards resolving the issue. And then obviously, you can have the procedures and have everything else and then still mess up sometimes, still forget things, skip over something, miss an exception to a rule, right? You should always run the dishwasher after dinner on Fridays, except, if we're going to go to a play party, right? Or something. And then that goes back to like, how can we communicate more efficiently? Expressing like sincere apologizing. Like whether that constitutes a punishment varies. I would consider you're just giving a heartfelt apology to somebody for not meeting expectations to be more than enough. Literally enough punishment by itself to go, I understand, mistress. I'm very sorry. It won't happen again. And then, like, in your apology, I think a good apology involves specificity and it involves sincerity. So that and that's hard to do, right? It's not a lot harder to say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Whereas a sincere apology will say, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I didn't know the dishwasher correctly. I know that those, glasses needed to be hand washed and I put them in the dishwasher anyway and they got water spots on them. And then you go into like how you're going to change your behavior to make sure it doesn't happen again in the future, reduce the likelihood of it happening in the future, right? From now on, I will set the glasses over here first, so that way I know they're going to be hand washed or whatever. And then, again, I'm very sorry. I hope you can forgive me. And then they say, I forgive you. They give you a little kiss on the forehead. They pat you on the back, or, they do whatever it is that's appropriate for your dom to do. And then you go on your merry way, and, that is what I think works. So that is what I would say to do. Always a lot of good adventures going on. Okay, now seems like a good time for me to go and grab some more water. So keep those questions coming, y'all. I will be right back as soon as I can be. I have a big water bottle, and I'm very picky about water being cold. So I've been leaving it in the fridge and then just filling up this one instead. And I'm thinking that maybe actually wasn't the best idea because I keep running out of water. But we'll be right back. Ask your questions and don't go anywhere. Or do. I'm not the boss of you. I'm not your dom. All right, we are back. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for waiting. Okay, so let us get on to more questions. A few weeks ago, everyone seemed to be looking for a video exit to Eden that is like $80 everywhere and not streamed. Found it on Walmart online. Wait, did you actually buy it? Wait, you have to tell me if that's real if you buy it. There is, I will tell you all right now, there is a website that is called DVD Lady. It's literally called dvdlady.com, hashtag not sponsored. And she has like all of the stuff. Like if you're like, I want this weird German BDSM movie, she's like, I got you. She's got your DVD. I'm not going to make any commentary on whether or not I think it's legitimate or real, or if it's just, you know, spoofed copies from the internet. But if you want it, it's probably on there. And then you don't have to shop through Walmart. But I've been meaning to watch Exit to Eden again, like the comedy movie with Rosie O'Donnell of all people. I've heard it's bad, but good because it's bad. At least from what I've heard. It's one of the ones I feel like I remember part of the ending, but I can't remember in what context I would have seen it. Like maybe I think one of my partners was watching it and I came over when they were wrapping up the movie. Or like they were hosting a movie night and then like I came over later to have dinner or something. I don't know. Like it was also there's like something and like some kind of like fuzzy right there under my eye. Fantastic. Okay. Let us get back to questions. Me and the Miss are going to discuss adding new protocols and tasks tomorrow. That sounds like a great idea. Lifestyle was weighing on him emotionally, and I really started missing and craving the way we used to be with each other. Yes. Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, and I said this before, I think it can... I think you have to be able to move with, like, time passing. And I think a lot of people... and this is more related to sex than anything else, but I think people get caught in trying to recapture, like, an earlier version of something instead of trying to make a new version that's also enjoyable. Like, a lot of people, especially when you get into sort of, like, midlife crisis territory, a lot of people that are in their 40s and 50s, they get very hung up on, like, I want sex to be like how it was the first time I had it, or when I lost my virginity, or, the first time we made love together, or whatever. But when it's been 20 years, when it's been a really long time, and, like, bodies have changed, and you've changed, and, hormones are different, like, it's on one level sort of biologically impossible to make it identical, but also, like, is that really going to be the thing that makes you happy? Or is it you want to get to a similar level of, like, emotional closeness and vulnerability? Because there are many ways to do that do not just mean, like, cut and, like, copy and paste repeating what you did 10 years ago. But I think if you found that it took something away from your relationship, that's, like, a very healthy reason to be like, maybe power exchange not the right move for us. But it's like, it's painful to have that realization and to be like, this thing we both really like doing, we're really enthusiastic about, the trade-off of doing that was we lost a different thing that we also really liked. And sometimes that thing is even more important than the kink part. Yes. Find people that connect with you and treat you right. I am 28 and still learning the difference of genuine friendship and kindness and people that are just using you and lying to get what they want. Yes, I think that process of learning people, it's always going to be an ongoing process. And I think what really helps is being cognizant of those brain traps we fall into. I'm not sure else to refer to them, but like we have like schemas, right? We have like certain ideas about ourselves, how the world works, who we are, and what we deserve in relationships. And most people usually have healthier schemas about things. They think I am deserving of somebody that will pay attention to me. but those beliefs can also be skewed and unhealthy, right? You can have something that tells you, maybe without necessarily being conscious of that being something you believe, maybe you're somebody that doesn't think that, you know, you're worthy of commitment, and so you subconsciously pursue married men, not just for the thrill of it, not for the novelty, not to be better, like, you know, than the person's spouse, but because you kind of know that they're not really ever going to be able to commit with you, and you subconsciously, you know, are pursuing these people that are actually replicating patterns that they feel good because they're familiar. Our brain knows these paths, the paths that we go down with people like this. It's like, it's very easy for our brains to mistake familiar for positive. And so it's very easy to get stuck in cycles of like pursuing similar people. And sometimes that can be positive, right? That's why people have a type, you know. But like psychologically, you can also have a type too. And that can mean like, okay, why do I keep getting in relationships with people that are like this? And like, sometimes people are just manipulative and bad and, you know, or crappy, or are not emotionally developed enough yet, especially when you're younger. And, you know, if you're like, you know, 16 to 24, you know, you're really growing in a relationship still. And that's going to be a big learning process of like identifying the kind of people you want to be in relationships with outside of just like, I think they're cute. And, you know, we go to biology class together. So, you know, when you're getting into that more mature period of pursuing people, both for friendships and for relationships, you can start to become more aware of like the subconscious pattern seeking that you do. And this, I feel like I'm describing this and it all sounds very Freudian, but like I've read so many books from people that like work in sex therapy and research where like this is like repeatedly affirmed time and time again that, you know, we go for what feels familiar, even if familiar is sometimes bad. And by being consciously aware of, you know, what sort of things you are drawn towards and patterns maybe from your childhood or previous relationships that feel familiar, you can more easily identify when that's the pathway you're going down. But the surefire way to make sure this keeps being a problem is if you deny up and down that you're never ever gonna ever date anyone like blank again. You know, I'm never gonna be like my father. I'm never gonna be like this. And so often people that don't do work beyond just denying it's ever going to happen to them, they're never going to, you know, have a game plan for it, you end up falling into those patterns. So that's part of the reason why it's important to have that reflection and self-identification process well on the way by the time you get into dating or finding kink partnerships especially. Is chat not working? Looks like it's trucking along for me. Let's check. I'm not seeing anything that says that chat is not working, but I will keep an eye on it just in case, because YouTube's it's YouTube. It's been having a time of it lately. I feel like they've been changing some stuff on the back end, and not all of it is going well. They are definitely also surveying people about AI and how people feel about generative. I almost said regenerative. That would be crazy. Generative AI on YouTube. I'm like, oh no, this is bad. Think of what automated AI generated YouTube content would be like. You don't have to, it already exists, but imagine that being like the force that dominates the platform, because you can just like be like, all right, let's generate an AI prompt that will make a sponsored video about Coca-Cola. Never pay for sponsored videos again. What a time to be alive. What town do you think has the best / safest kink venues? I'm going to say not Los Angeles. This is going to be not Los Angeles. Let's see. Where else it has not Dallas, and not St. Louis, and definitely not Portland. I feel like Vancouver, Canada, which is not in the U.S., so I don't know if that doesn't count. I feel like the venues I know of, there's individual people in Vancouver that do not have good reputations, but the venues in Vancouver, at least from my understanding, generally have a good reputation. So good that they got sued out of existence for naming someone that they had blacklisted, I think for, I don't know, they'd done some kind of bad, terrible thing. And then they just, oh God, they got sued. It was bad. But I feel like that maybe has, as far as the best, as in like the nicest venues, I feel like there's a lot of really good rentable pro-dom spaces in Chicago. I don't know why that is. I don't know where that comes from. I like Chicago, so many places. And also there's just like random little pockets of like very nice like rentable dungeons. Portland has a nice one. There's a couple in San Francisco. I feel like San Francisco has to be an obvious answer, but I don't know how. I wouldn't say they're necessarily the safest. Because it's a very like SF is a big town, lots of transplants, and I'm not sure how safe they are, but there's lots of good ones there. You definitely get variety in SF for sure. I've heard very, very good things about the ranch. It's a very far drive for me though, and I don't currently have any people that I could we'd have to stay overnight if we went. I don't really have anyone that like I would like go to a kink venue with, like stay overnight, just like go check it out. But like maybe also because it's like outdoors, right? So it's like at least partly outdoors. So maybe in the summer I'll check it out. But yeah, I've heard very good things about that. Had an early birthday celebration earlier tonight. Congratulations. Happy early birthday. No, go ahead. Love the self-promo. If anyone is like, I'm starting a kink YouTube channel, I'm starting a stream, whatever. I love promoting the people from my community on stream and being like, hey, go check these people out. Go. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, I'm, happy to promo stuff for sure. Let it all out there. So the self-promo I don't like is when somebody's like spamming a link to something repeatedly. Like basically just don't do that. If you don't do that, it's fine. Do you game or just chat on Twitch, and what's your name, or is it the same as this one? I don't know if you're talking to me, but I stream games and chat on Twitch on Mondays. And then it's linked down below. But I believe Lexi is going to be doing Pokemon streams, which is exciting. Wooloo is best. It's my Pokemon opinion of the day. I got very excited because I saw a Fido in the background of a historical cooking video. If anyone knows, I forget the name of the channel, but they were making a video about making breakfast buns, like historical breakfast buns, and they had a Fido plushie in the background, and I was like, Fido! And it was like, yes. Ooh, broccolini cheese soup. I've never actually, have I had a broccoli cheese soup before? I feel like I remember seeing that on my college campus as one of the food options. I don't remember ever eating it though. Is it good? She does like cats. It was probably a cat outside. Okay, I should be clear. The half a yogurt was one of those like big multi-serving containers of yogurt. So it was half a yogurt, but it was like a whole serving of yogurt, but it was the last half of a container that contained multiple servings of yogurt. So in fact, I ate a whole yogurt, but it was technically also half a yogurt at the same time. I don't know which way of saying that is more true. But good point. Point taken. Yes, this is a difficult question to answer, but I'm going to try and answer it to the best of my ability because I feel like it's very important. Okay. It's going to be a rough transition if I don't answer them in this order. So I'm going to go a little bit out of order. I'm going to answer one, what is your favorite dating app? I have two favorite dating apps. My favorite for kinky dating is Field. And my favorite general dating app is OkCupid. I like them for different reasons. OkCupid, I ignore everything else. I only go to just the match percentage category. Don't go, just stick to that match percentage. When I get to below 90%, I stop using the app for a while. If I'm messaging people, I focus on messaging people and dates and things, and don't worry about like making new connections at that point. But I just stick to the match percentage, and through doing that, I believe I have avoided, like, basically, like, I haven't, like, had a terrible first date. I've never had anything go really wrong, never had anything, like, none of the wild stories here happen from, like, I met this guy from a dating app or this person from a dating app, and then they showed up, and then this crazy thing happened. Never had that happen, and I think that's one, because I am a very specific cup of tea as a person myself, and also because, I am picky, and I only look at like a very, like, the people that I believe I will have the most compatibility with. And I thought about making a video where I literally just talk about, like, this is how I use a dating app, and like, this is what I look for, this is the process I go through. But it hasn't, I don't know if that would actually be worth it or not. For field, there's not that, like, it's more location based. So you see people that are closer to you. But if you are polyamorous and or kinky, because the app is so niche, you don't really need to have the same level of filtering on it. I found it to be pretty good at, like, finding people that are worth having dates with, especially, I will find people that are on both, and then you can see kind of like their more vanilla self on OkCupid and their more kinky side on Field, and it's like gives you kind of a more, like, complete picture of a person, which is kind of funny when those things happen. But Field I like more for kinky dating, but one of those two. I've briefly tried other apps, like I was on Hinge and on Bumble for like literally a hot minute, and I instantly was like, nope, not for me, sorry. I just felt like the people that were on those apps were so different from OkCupid and from Field, and I didn't think it was going to be worth it. And, like, I've thought about it, but I feel like I have good results doing it the way that I've been doing it for 7 years, so why would I change? All right, this is now going to be, I think it's supposed to be Field, like feeling, but I don't know. I'm not sure exactly. I mean, it's sort of that era of short, sweet app names. But okay, we're gonna now tonally switch, and it's gonna be a little bit of like a bomb going off, and then saying, like, and now for something entirely different. So now for something entirely different, we're gonna have a serious question here, but I think an important one. My question is probably gonna be hard to answer, but how do I get out of an abusive BDSM relationship? I'm a trans woman and a dom, but I'm also autistic, and my sub is taking advantage of that. So this is something that I would really recommend having outside support for, because that is what is most dangerous about being in a scenario with abuse happening, is that isolation. Oh, thank you, Amy. Thank you so much. Yes, I will answer your question in a minute. I just want to make sure we have space for this topic at the moment. I would look for, let's see, what is it called? Give me a second. You can look for the, like, your, if you live in the States, you can look for your local YWCA. If you're worried about things being monitored, right? Like maybe they're monitoring your phone access or your emails or your internet history, go to a public library, use the internet there. If you can, but you can look for resources online. You can look for, like, the YWCA. And as far as I know, they are trans inclusive, so that shouldn't be a problem. A lot of them have programs for when people transition out of abusive scenarios. My limited knowledge is that, especially if you're living together, it's very difficult to find resources for things. There's not very many places that can help with moving or moving costs. There's not very many places that can help with, like, housing, especially with pets. Or depending on what your work circumstances are. So that can be a challenge, but the smartest things you can do are, set things aside, get money saved up, put it somewhere they can't get to, or that you think it would be unlikely for them to find it. Make sure you have copies of all of your vital documents. If you feel like you have anyone in your life that you can trust with knowing what's happening, you can tell them about it, and it can help you come up with a plan. But most importantly, if you are in the process of leaving and you decide to leave, do not do it alone, and do not do it in private. The way that I have seen this handled before is having the move happen when you're telling them that you're leaving, if you're living together especially. And I'm kind of answering assuming that you're living together. Don't do it alone. There are moving companies. Some of them will have policies for DV move out. If you're connected to your local community, there's a bikers group associated with it. There's a lot of bikers groups that are like very like anti-abuse, anti-DV that may be able to show up and support you. So look into that too. There's some biker gang that's like bikers against like domestic violence or something. But like have some kind, even if just neighbors, even if like just have people there that know what's happening. It's very difficult, especially because you're trans. I would maybe not recommend getting police involved. In some states, it is possible to ask for example, like a police standby, where you can let them know that you're going to attempt to leave a violent situation, and you can call them and ask them to be there on standby. But obviously, that's a waste of police resources. So they don't tend to do that, and also it's too much personal risk to the officers, but it's not too much of a personal risk for the single person who's has no guns and no body armor, no anything, no cop car, to just flee somebody who's abusing them. Absolutely, to make that make sense. Just, oh God, that makes me so angry. But yeah, anyways, come up if you can. If you have time to plan stuff out, come up with a safety plan, think through everything, figure out pets, insurance, finances, having cash on hand, transitional housing, who you have to rely on for support, and then trying to just get resources set aside to make that thing happen. But there absolutely are people that can help you. There are not as many places as possible. You can either call as a local. A lot of the YWCAs have a hotline you can call. There's also a national domestic violence hotline that you can call. I know they have that in Canada, the US, the UK, Australia. All those countries have some version of that you can call, and they can send you recommendations for things to help you plan if you need help leaving with stuff. But it's I don't know. It's very difficult, especially being in a situation where you're dealing with like being in a marginalized community, possibly being isolated from outside support networks, and also the particulars of being in a BDSM relationship obviously is going to also complicate things. But it's absolutely possible that your sub is taking advantage of that. It's totally possible. Even if you're not living together and you're not having to, de-mesh your lives, you're not having to, how do I make sure that my abusive partner doesn't threaten my pets or something because I'm trying to leave. Like if you live separately, just break up in person. Basically, do not in person. Not in private. Don't do it in private. Do it in public if you're going to do it in public. But just do as few things alone as possible. Unfortunately, if you don't have any kind of evidence of physical harm, it is very difficult to get any kind of restraining order or anything like that. You can usually get I think it's a temporary restraining order, like much more easily. But honestly, with restraining orders, usually it's not even a good idea to get one because it tends to just piss people off and make them more prone to violence. To be honest with you, it's more of a do it later so that way legally they have to stay away from you, and then even getting that enforced is a whole other fucking can of worms. So your mileage will vary on that one. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but just don't do things in private. Do them in public. If they have weaponry, if you can find an opportunity to document it, do that. And then just stay safe. Yeah. It's very, take advantage of hotlines, please. Genuinely, I know it's very hard, especially if you are feeling embarrassed about it or you're scared of what they're going to think because of the fact you're kinky or you're trans or whatever else. You gotta take advantage of them. Use the support lines. Like, that's what they're there for. Also check with your local county, city mental health department. A lot of them have resources handy for DV. Yes, I meant to say that. I was trying to get to that with the local YWCA thing, but also like local, depending on where you live, local city health resources. The public health department will also have resources for DV shelter access. It's very difficult though, because the more rural you are, the less funding there is for stuff, the less access to stuff there is, and it makes it all difficult. To the person who asked this question, I'm wishing you all the best and hope that you can get out of the situation ASAP. Please surround yourself with people who care about you. Yes. I also say, when you go through the breakup process, the best thing you can do for yourself is to don't make it an opportunity for litigation. Don't make it an opportunity for them to be able to get you back, so to speak. Clean break. I'm a big proponent of having a clean break. That means no contact, changing your numbers, changing your address, blocking on things, changing usernames, changing passwords. Make it difficult for them to access you, impersonate you, try to stalk you, harass you, hack into your stuff. Change everything, basically. Luckily, there's lots of tools now for like password managers, username managers, things that can, help you keep track of all the stuff that you maybe would want to change and keep up to date on. And it sucks. It's so hard, and we do not. I don't think there's anywhere in the planet that gives people enough resources for being able to cope with leaving relationships like this. And also to go back to the YWCA for a second and local healthcare resources, if a hotline isn't an option for you, or you feel like they're not going to give you more specific examples of what you need, oftentimes there will be like just walk-in policy hours in certain places. You can literally just go to a place and they have, I don't know if they're like domestic violence advocates or like what their role actually is, but there are people you can go to talk to that will tell you about local resources, that will tell you about like, hey, here's what we've got in terms of shelter programs, what we can do about moving, giving you advice about, local nuances in, police involvement, restraining orders, things like that. It's very difficult because for many reasons, but also like, for example, with the restraining order thing, it's if you choose not to get one, it can make doing certain things more difficult. Like for example, if you're trying to get your moving costs, reimbursed by a company that allegedly offers like support for DV survivors, you usually have to show them a copy of a legitimate restraining order to get them to do that, which is invasive and weird, but I guess they're worried about people lying about it for money. But then, yeah, like I was saying, if you do get one, it can make people pissed off, it can make them angry, make them more prone to violence because, they are oftentimes very entitled and do not take criticism well and see it as an affront and a lie, and, we know where that leads. So yes, look for those in-person resources that can steer you in a more positive direction, but it's very difficult. Like especially with anything involving like weapons, kids, pets, shared living spaces, it gets very complicated. But yes, clean break is absolutely necessary to move on from the negative energy. Yeah, I mean, if you're a spiritual person, all different options there for like cleansing rituals, doing whatever makes sense to you spiritually to help you kind of recenter and feel reconnected. The people in my life that I know have gone through similar circumstances, they moved everything to a P.O. box. They changed their phone number, changed all of their email addresses, everything, got rid of their Facebook accounts, got rid of their public social media, all that stuff, just totally started from scratch. And many of them I know kind of went through a period of a couple months of just going through like temporary housing and just kind of like bouncing around, usually within the same state, but not always. Just kind of moving around, going to place, trying to not be followable. But it's hard, yeah. That's my advice on that. I'm not perfect at all the information one needs to know about this, but the sad part is that there's not many resources. There's just not like physically, if you need help doing certain things, like you need help moving, there's not, like, you realize when you look into this, like, I found a lot of this stuff out when I was researching, like, the Marilyn Manson cases. And when you dig into, like, the reality of, like, being an abuse survivor, you realize, like, how much is talked about, how little is done, how little is funded, how even when there are places that have programs, they are constantly on shoestring budgets. If there are shelters you can go to, they usually have a bunch of rules, like, you know, no pets, or it's only for kids, or only for cis women, or it's only first come, first serve. You show up that day and be ready to completely move in on the spot. And, you know, we're getting into things that are, you know, additional levels of complexity, like, you know, maybe you need to have help maintaining sobriety. Maybe you're coming off of a drug addiction. Maybe, you know, there's other things that make that more complicated too, that there just simply is, like, not resources for. And then even it's temporary, right? Like, and it's not a complete solution, unfortunately. But I wish you the best of luck. Please feel free to keep checking in here. If you need some support, I know that the people in our community, they may not be able to offer physical support, but mental support, absolutely, we can do that. Bit of an odd question, but what do you think about consent violation as a term? I feel like I've heard it used in the community to refer to what sounds like a lot like sexual assault, or SA to me. Certainly, I would say in the kink community, you will see the term consent violation more than SA. I feel like it's a similar phenomena to where people say, like, consensual non-consent, and they go, oh, well, it's basically just, like, ravishment fantasies, right? And that's not really what it is, but yeah, you will usually hear consent violation used most commonly with the sort of scenario that's like, my partner got me into subspace and then did whatever thing without my advanced consent. Or, you know, I was coerced or guilted into doing XYZ thing that was actually a limit for me, or, you know, those sorts of examples. However, I do think the term consent violation is necessary as a broader label in the kink community, because within kink, so many other violations can occur that feel just as, if not more, personal, and as well, okay, I don't want to say more, that's force of habit. You can have things happen in kink that are as violating as SA is, but it not involve genital contact or sexual stimulation. Like if you, for example, you know, tell your partner that humiliation is a hard limit and to never ever do it, and you're into ABDL, and the first time you feel brave enough to wear, like, a diaper around your partner, and, you know, they spend the whole evening berating you and telling you how dumb you look, like, that sounds like, you know, it's a consent violation. It's not, like, to me, that goes beyond just being like a meanie bobini. It goes into, like, no, you did something you know your partner has as a hard limit. They don't like it. They don't want it. You did it anyways. And, you know, here's the consequences. Congratulations. Thank you, Evie, for the stream and looking energetic, even though you had a long day. Thank you. I appreciate it. How does someone contact you for a business opportunity? You can email me. My email is down below. It is here. I'll put it in the chat. It's lupineeventide@gmail.com. I desperately need to clean up my inbox because Google keeps telling me that my inbox is 98% full, and if I don't clear it out, I will no longer be able to send and receive emails. So I will look for it. If you want to send me one tonight, I will look for it. I am assuming that it would be from the club name. But you can also add me on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, you give me a follow on Twitter, I'll follow you back, and then we can also DM too. And then that's also a good way to contact me. So there you go. Either one works. Oh, and on I'm at Twitter at EV Lupine. It's the same. Actually, is it the same as my Twitter? Is the YouTube at? It is. Okay, great. I love it. Look at me make my own life easy. Oh my god, it won't let me type. Okay. The crazy thing is I already pay for 2 terabytes of storage, but I use it for video backup. They want even more of my money. I'm like, how do I just pay you for unlimited lifetime storage, you know? Being a late bloomer or boomer, I think they mean bloomer. I did not lose my virginity until age 29, struggling with anxiety and I think that's RSD, which is rejection sensitive dysphoria. I did go down a pro-man path due to not feeling heard. Interesting. Luckily to get out, but it took a lot to find a healthy support system to understand what I was feeling. Thank you for your staying last fit. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Bruno Goats. I really struggled with the last two videos that I made. So if for some reason y'all are seeing this live stream, I'm seeing my two most recent videos, or maybe you're watching it in the distant future. I didn't plan this, but the two most recent videos I put out back to back, one was about the manosphere and one was about incels on dating apps. And I think in the editing process, I realized I did not emphasize the empathy portion of it as much as I wanted to do so, like going into it intentionally. I think I don't know. Maybe it was the headspace I was in, like filming the video. I did not take as much of a time to make a concerted effort to maybe have a little more of an aside with the empathy portion of it. But the comments I've been getting on those two videos have been very interesting, and I'm very grateful for people that recognizing the understanding I put out there, because I've been getting at least some feedback from people who say like, I'm an incel, stop stereotyping us. I can tell that you hate us, basically, which is really disappointing and it's sad to hear, because I don't hate incels as individual people. I greatly disagree with incel ideology. I think it is harmful to everyone involved. I think it is harmful to incels and non-incels alike. And I think there is concrete, definite evidence that at least the more extreme versions of incel ideology lead to real-world violence of small and large scale alike. And so I have difficulty sort of believing the line that has been spun to me by some people who say, well, I'm an incel, but we don't all think this. And I'm like, okay, so I can go to one of your forums that's called sluthate.com, and I can see from the front page that this forum is all about, what the title says. And then other forums are full of rating women and denigrating their appearance and talking about the women problem and how women deserve everything that's coming to them and how women are the real abusers in society and that reverse rape is a thing. And it just keeps going on and on and on and on. And so I have difficulty sort of hearing people that are telling me I'm an incel, we're not all misogynist, stop making it out like we all are, when it's like, okay, if that's not true, then y'all need to do some serious house cleaning. I would also say I do make a distinction, and I apologize for this, because making those two videos, obviously I have not made content about that before, so I didn't know what to expect in terms of a reaction. I didn't know who was going to see it, and I didn't realize so many people that were in, let's say, the manosphere, right, we're going to see those videos. And so I approached it a little bit more like it was going to be people who kind of got what I was talking about as like an initial premise. And I realized that was not the case, obviously, after publishing it. But I do make a distinction between the people that happen to be involuntarily celibate and people who follow inceldom as an ideology. Because I think it's perfectly possible to be somebody that is involuntarily celibate and to not share the worldview and not be part of the community of being an incel. So again, it's confusing, and it's like, it's also, people will say, oh, well, why are you calling them incels? That's mean. And it's like, no, they call themselves incels. Like, it's an endonym. That's how sociologically that works. I'm sorry. Yeah, incels aren't really men who want sex but aren't getting one. Incels are men who aren't having any sex and feel entitled to it, yeah. I think that's sort of the line between people who are saying, I'm involuntarily celibate, stop talking about me like I hate women, and people that are like incels. And I'm like, maybe people that identify as, like, maybe not all incels even realize what ideology goes along with that, I guess. Like, I don't know, like, maybe TERFs, I guess. Like, there's not very many other things that are, like, similar in nature, but the way I talked about this on stream the other night is it's kind of like when you hear somebody who what did I say? I think it was about religion or something. It's like when you talk about how, you know, a lot of conservative Protestant Christians are like homophobic and say that like gay people are gonna like go to hell or whatever. Or you say like, or maybe maybe let's pick out like people from, fucking what is it, like the people that are IBLP. People that are IBLP, or let's see, Mormons actually. No, wait, let's stick with IBLP. People that are IBLP, which is a Baptist, like, you know, fundamentalist sect. You say, like, people, like, the IBLP endorses, like, homophobia, right? And you hear somebody comes along and says, well, I'm a Baptist, and I don't hate gay people, and I'm not homophobic. It's like, okay, you're not homophobic, but what do you think about gay people? I think they're going to go to hell. Okay, why do you think they're going to go to hell? Because they're disobeying God's law for humanity. Okay, and then you just keep on that. Then it's like, okay, you don't hate gay people, but you do think that they're going to go to hell, and you don't want to see them get married, you don't want to see them in public, or have them be part of your church, but you're not homophobic. Okay. Like, it's very, it's messy. Like, at some point, it kind of feels like being somebody trying to pull the wool over my eyes. You know what I mean? Thank you so much for your kind and helpful words of encouragement tonight. You are so welcome, Lexi. Thank you so much. You and this community have been so wonderful and supportive. You are very welcome, Lexi. I wish you so much luck with your Pokemon streams. It's a tricky one to navigate, but when one side is shaming you, even if it's just hard truths, it's not hard to see why people gravitate towards manosphere content when they appear to sympathize. Yeah, but it's like a false sympathy, because it almost, because the video I made wasn't really intended to be a commentary on like everything about incels. It was really about this one study about incels on dating apps. So I didn't go into it in as much detail as maybe I would have had the topic been a little bit different, but I completely get why people gravitate towards like these labels and these terms, simply because there's not been like a concerted movement in the opposite direction that's positive. And they give you easy answers. Easy answers does not mean kind answers, right? People, like I was talking about earlier, right? The mental pathways of your brain likes what feels familiar. Even if those things are bad, right? If you were used to being mistreated in your relationships, you can gravitate towards that because to your brain, you're like, I know that. Maybe it's not good, but it's what I know. So we're going to go towards that because we know it. And this is not to victim blame by any means, trust me. It's not that. It's just explaining, okay, if there's a pattern going on here, what is contributing to that on an individual psychological level? Because obviously, really, the fault still lies, like, the fault of it. Not, like, what draws you to it, but the fault for who causes harm is still with the person causing the harm, not on your brain for fucking being bullshit, because humans were not a finished project. Humans were written at 11:59, the last second, I feel like sometimes. Slapped in on turnitin.com at the last possible moment. But where was I going with that? Anyways, the pathway thing. Incels. I think a lot of red pill stuff and incel stuff, and really actually far right stuff, you know, largely as well, they broker in uncomfortable truths, right? They broker in telling you things that no one else will tell you. And it can seem like you're part of this secret club that has this truth of the world figured out, and no one else besides you has figured it out. And you're maybe not no one, but like a lot of, you're part of the secret club that understands the true uncomfortable nature of the world. But when you look at the studies of especially incels, we see time and time again, incels have attachment issues. They are by and large neurodivergent. They have higher levels of depression, anxiety, other mental health issues. They have a brain that makes them predisposed to believe when somebody tells them everything is completely hopeless, You will never find love. No woman will love you. No woman is worthy of trust because they're all harlots. When somebody tells you that, even if it's bad, it feels
Mr. Beansman donated $5. Thank you so much for doing these streams. I've been seeking a DS relationship for so long, and now that I have it, I want it to be so wonderful.
Thank you so much for doing these streams. I've been seeking a DS relationship for so long, and now that I have it, I want it to be what's so wonderful. Yes, I have so much hope for you, Mr. Beansman. You are on the right path. Everything I have heard you say so far and ask about, you are going in the right way, and I'm glad to be part of that journey with you. Yeah, repeatedly being trapped in the same traps often has to do with vulnerability. Exactly. Theremin Trees has a really good video about this. Highly recommend. Yes, that name is very familiar. I don't think I've seen any content from them, but yes, it's about vulnerability. It's not about in recognizing if the basement keeps flooding in your house and you don't realize the part of the reason it's flooding is because you have a broken seal in your basement somewhere, it's a lot harder to stop the flooding from happening. You have to understand that there is something there that's wrong, that is identifiable and fixable, but it doesn't mean that it's your fault that it rains outside. Does that make sense? I saw somebody ask about femcells. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything specifically example-wise about femcells. I didn't talk about femcells in that video because the study was about 32 incel men. It wasn't meant to be a complete exploration of the topic of inceldom. It was about one study that had 200 people in it. I would love to see more research about femcells. But to the commenter's point, when women do toxic masculinity, it's still toxic masculinity. Yep. Exactly. TERFs are a perfect example of weaponized toxic femininity. All three honest TERFs that exist. Yeah. And, Graham Linehan. Yeah, it is a thing, unfortunately. I'm not sure it's necessarily a massive thing. I feel like the thing that's more common is, the femme version of red pill, which is women's dating strategy or something, and that's a whole other fucking toxic ball of garbage of just people, the red pillers see that shit and then they just they just go in a loop. It's like two people who hate each other being locked in orbit together. It's really bad. It's not good for humanity, FYI, but okay, dating app, answered that question. Do you think that kink platforms are safe, or do you feel like they need to be better run, safety protocols? There is a really good post on FetLife about this. The username is something not Tom Hanks or something with Tom Hanks on the title. It's I don't know what that means. But there is just because of the nature of social media, you can create a social media app and intend for it to be, we're finally going to make the good, safe dating app where nothing bad ever happens and all of the bad people get banned. And you can go in with every intention of finally doing it right, and inevitably that all ends up breaking down because of the sheer power of scale, or you end up failing at the starting block because of how difficult it is to even make a successful social media app in the first place. I think that being known, there are still many things that basically every platform could be doing to make things safer. More options for muting and blocking both people as well as words. I think FetLife basically doesn't have any resources beyond blocking specific people, which we could work on that. Although I haven't really looked into blocking things recently, so maybe that is a thing at this point. I think there always needs to be more people working to get rid of harmful and hateful content that is explicitly against the rules of the site. And that just is a numbers problem. That's a time problem. And then The one thing that I understand why FetLife does it this way, but I also feel like there has to be a better way to do it somewhere. Is okay, I'm not gonna get into explain the whole analogy, so I'll just say this quickly. One of the main issues with FetLife is as a communication tool for talking semi-privately amongst only kinky people about specific bad actors in the scene. It is against terms of service to name specific people in writing. So what ends up happening is you join a community and you befriend some people and you see their vague posts from 5 years ago talking about some bad person, and then you're like, well, who's that? And then you find out the whole story. But if you didn't make that connection, you might not ever know who this person is talking about. Like, you might be able to guess and be like, wow, that's a really bad story. Who the fuck could that be about? And you just can't, like, you have to do this, like, you have to DM people. There's a whole thing to be able to figure out, like, okay, who's the bad person we're talking about who's apparently abused that many people? Oh, dear. And you just can't name them. And FetLife, so one is... I think it's like some kind of privacy or like harassment policy. And then also I think for legal reasons, they do not want to platform speech that could be seen as defamatory towards a specific individual. Although, as we should well know from recent lawsuits, you don't have to specifically name a person by name in order for your words to be defamatory amongst a community in which that person could be known. So, yeah, I think there could be more safety protocols. I think it really, on the more doable scale of it, more options for muting and blocking, and then just more effort put into reporting and removing content, which at this point, again, is a human problem. It's having enough people that are trained, that are able to do that for enough hours a day and, be able to pay them enough money. Money is really the fucking problem with all of it, to be honest. It's just like they don't make very much money. They are absolutely kneecapped by advertisers and credit card processors, and it's a rough time. It really is. So I don't in any way hate men, but I can relate to that rest of the traits in that incel video. I'm a woman. I want to date and make more friends. I'm autistic, and it just hasn't worked. I get that. I think making friends is hard for a lot of people. I think just human connection, especially these days, fucking everyone across the board, not to minimize it for you particularly. I'm just saying that, like, in general, it's hard for people. What really helped me was finding the kink community. I was that, like, I think it's hard for maybe people to understand that, considering the fact that I stream to like a couple hundred people, and I have several thousand who watch my videos on a regular basis. But I was... just to be completely vulnerable with people. Like, I was like very lonely as a child. Like, I didn't have any friends growing up. I moved a lot as a kid. So when I did make friends, I had them for maybe, like, I cry at everything. So, like, if I get teary-eyed, don't forget about it. It's not like I'm like actively traumatized by this. I've had years of therapy to process all of this, even when I was still a teenager. So, I was very lonely as a kid. I didn't have very many friends. And when I didn't last for very long because it was pre-social media, pre-internet. And by the time you've moved 4 times, you've lost track of the person you knew in 2nd grade that was your best friend. So I really, like, it literally wasn't until college, like maybe like junior year of high school, that I had anything approaching like a regular friend group. And then I moved cross country again to go to college. And so I lost touch with basically everyone. And then when I got into college, I still didn't I made like one friend with somebody who was autistic. And we were peas in a pod together. So like sort of a funny, like a buddy comedy scenario with the two of us. Like, on the one hand, we have the person with the ADHD and the autism. The other one, we got the person with all the anxiety. Like, just, it's very funny. And just being like this whole like 2 nerdy people that we knew on our dorm floor is very, very fun. But even then, I started to make friends through joining the kink community. Honestly, that was what changed it for me, was having a social setting where I could be completely myself. So whenever I talk in videos about like the kink community being a great place to like meet like-minded people and make friends. I say that shit from personal experience. Like that is like, I went my whole life past like mid-elementary school feeling like a fucking weirdo loser that could not make friends, and couldn't keep friends, and like I just didn't know what was wrong with me. It wasn't that I really like actively prioritized making friends, and I had no problem like, you know, dating people and having boyfriends, but like female friendship was very difficult for me. But being in the kink community, I felt like I could be totally and completely myself. I wasn't weird. I wasn't awkward. Like, I was just among people who were like me. That's what made such a big difference. I think if I didn't move as much, I think I wouldn't have had as many problems. I just, I was slow at it. Like, developing a friendship was like, especially early on when I was younger, I'd make friends pretty quickly. But I think that's true for a lot of people. They make friends more easily when they're young. But, I think I would have had lifelong friends if I would have moved less or not moved at all. But that's not how my life went. So, is what it is. Yep, I found that almost every system to remove abusive people from an online community gets abused by some people. Yep, Darvo is a powerful tool. Yeah, it is a powerful tool for sure, and it sucks ass, and people go, oh, there's a way I can name and shame somebody I don't like in the community and get them ostracized, and people will just believe it wholesale. Yeah, it sounds like a great tool. Yeah, people are fucked up. Yeah, it is hard to meet people, especially as we get older. It gets harder because people get more into their own stuff, right? Their marriages, their houses, their jobs, their everything, and it becomes less natural. Was it a regular stream like this? So the stream I did on Tuesday, that was with Field, and we did a sort of a co-hosted Q&A session about discovering BDSM. That was really great. There was like a couple hundred people there. I think between my stream and theirs, it was like 300 or 400 folks, which was great. And it was awesome. And that is potentially going to be some regular interval once a month, likely on Tuesdays. So we will see. Thank you, Evie. I would try Daunting. I like people, but they don't really connect back. But maybe it's community work. I will say as well, I didn't mention this, the community is full to the brim of neurodivergent people. If I put a poll in this chat right now, and I asked how many people, and this is also because it's the internet, so knock off 10% maybe, but if I asked in this, like a poll, how many people here are of the neurospicy variety, I guarantee you it's at least 50-50. It's a lot. Pretty much the vast majority of people I know in the kink community are some flavor of neurospicy, and which I don't love as a term, but I'm saying it because I don't want to have to keep saying neurodivergent and AD, like just keep repeating that over and over again. Yes, they and then also people that are dealing with like a lot of people that are very open about dealing with depression, trauma, anxiety, all of that stuff. So I think to me, I've always felt safe in kink because I feel like, well, I mean, not always, but I feel safe amongst kinky people because I feel like we are objectively the weird kids table, and it's like, I can be here. I can be myself. It's great. But it also is some, what was I going to talk about? Oh yes, there are many opportunities these days for, especially online, neurodivergent oriented, like kink social things. So I think it's at least 80% of my local area. Yeah, that sounds about right. Saying neurodivergent. Why does it seem like every space hates male doms? I don't know how that's possible if male doms run every single space I can think of. Are you talking about the real life community? Because I just ran through my head a list of like who I know owns every dungeon I can think of and hosts every party I can think of. And every single one of them, except for one that's ran by a woman that's like runs a femdom brunch, and then one that is a pro-dom oriented space that is rentable. All of them are ran by male doms, so I'm a little bit confused. I certainly think it is an overstatement to say that places hate male doms as a rule. I would say there are certainly places that are not friendly to male doms and the space is not for them. Whether or not that develops into hatred of male doms is a different thing. I also think people in this community have good reason to be skeptical of male doms for the reason that every single time I log into FetLive without any reason at all, there is inevitably somewhere in my timeline another story about somebody being abused in a BDSM relationship by a dom who 9 times out of 10 is a man. So yeah, male doms are fine in general. Specific cases may vary, but as a group, we're okie dokie. Yeah, there are bad apples, and I think some people do experience this very deep anger at mistreatment and resentment for how other people are treated, and that can translate into, I think, in it maybe trying to be tongue in cheek, but going farther than that. Making stereotypical statements about male doms suck, male doms can't be trusted, something bad happens to male dom, wasn't it? Female doms, perfectly capable of being abusive. Submissives, perfectly capable of being abusive. All of them perfectly capable of being bad, terrible, consent violating people. Yeah, there are unfortunately fake male doms who are not actually kinky and just use the phrase because they think they can get away with bad stuff. Yes. So I guess in summary, I will not say that there are never spaces that hate male doms. I think it is, if you are a male dom, it is easy to take a lot of the online critique of like, what's going on with the male doms? What are they doing? What's happening there? And hear people maybe make flippant statements and take them as maybe being more harsh or personal than maybe they're meant as. And, people vent and don't always realize who's going to see it, or they make generalized statements. But I don't think there's, physical spaces where, male doms aren't welcome. Maybe outside of a femdom party, but even then, femdom parties will usually say, okay, we can't literally tell no male doms to come because you'll try to sue us, but if you are going to show up anyways, even though we really don't want you here because this is a women's space, please be respectful. That's more or less what I see happen. I don't know what that means. Is that hating? That doesn't sound like hatred to me. I don't know. Just being, I don't know. There's being flippant and making inside jokes, and then there's hatred. Okay, well, let's move on. I miss the Animal Crossing streams. Oh, I want to play Animal Crossing again, but there's too many games. There's too many games, Alex. There's too many. I have to play Baldur's Gate. I have to finish the DLC for Cyberpunk. There's Harvest Moon. I want to go back to Animal Crossing too. My stream, the deck I use for my Nintendo Switch started messing up, so I have to get a new one, which is also part of the reason why I haven't gone through the effort of setting it back up again. Maybe I will, though. I feel like I'm kind of in the mood for, cozy shit, but maybe that's, I don't know. I don't want to make any promises. Oh, shit. Yes, the full saying is one bad apple ruins the barrel, as a warning that allowing someone poisonous to hang out in an environment will corrupt it if left unchecked and excused. Not accusatory. Yes. Yeah. Not any immediate plans to do Baldur's Gate because I'm currently playing Cyberpunk and having to redo everything. But it's on the docket. It's on the list of games I want to play. Okay, trying to get back to questions. Oh, perfect. Here we go. Okay, we literally have 10 minutes left. Every day goes by so quickly. Two of my best friends are a couple, and I have a hunch they might be kinky. I'm nervous to go to kink events by myself, so I want to see if they'd go with me, but not sure there's a good way to ask. Okay, so that is tricky because you don't really know if they're kinky or not. You don't have to imply that you think they're kinky, but you might want to ask, hey, let's see. You can call it a sex positive center because that's the nomenclature we like around these parts. You can say, hey, so I'm interested in exploring going to this party at a sex positive event space. Is it something that you two would be interested in going to with me? Probably pick an event that is more intro friendly than not. Just, because they might not get and then you can talk about it. You can see if they want to go with you. You can explain, oh, well, I don't really want to go by myself. It might be awkward. Plus, I think it might just be fun if we get to go together. And it might be something that you two also enjoy. And then you can send them a link to the place. You can let them explore it on their own. And hopefully that'll at least tell you whether or not they are comfortable going to the event with you, even if maybe you don't actually, hey, you're kinky, right? You don't do that. Flight Simulator is great. That's perfect. I love that. No stress there at all. Legit Fortnite, super comfy. Really interesting. I would never say that, but I've also only ever watched people play Fortnite. Do you have a video somewhere on sharing your favorite BDSM, kink, etc. books? I don't have a video on it, but that might be a good idea. Kind of do a roundup of like my favorite kink books. There's a couple of new ones that have been published recently. I haven't gotten around to reading yet. Like there's one on like the science of pain. I think there's a new book published about like communication or like something in like power exchange relationships. But I have a list. I have like a book recommendation list. Valorant for streaming, super comfy, no stress. Absolutely. Everyone's like, Valo is my favorite game to play when I want to, when I just want to vibe. That's what people say, for sure. No tomfoolery in that statement whatsoever. I'm kind of looking for the puppy ears to make a retro comeback in a video just for the laughs and good memories. If I do like an anniversary celebration video or a channel milestone video, I promise you I will wear pet ears in them again. Or maybe if I end up talking about puppy play again in a video, I'll do that. I know that like kind of the current form on YouTube, forget what word I want to use for that. The current style guide for YouTube is like costume yourself in 3 different costumes for every video. It's like I don't want to wash that many clothes. Like I just don't want to get stuff dirty. I don't want to have to buy stuff to wear once for a video. Like no thanks, I'll stick with my drawer of t-shirts. That's pretty much it. Sorry to backtrack. Is it harder? No problem at all. Is it harder to do a long distance power exchange? That is extremely subjective. For me, I would say doing long distance power exchange is difficult to do, in that to do it at the level I want to do it is very difficult to do long distance. Because I don't get that same feeling of power exchange while doing it long distance with somebody. However, for a lot of people, long distance is a lower barrier to entry. And so that can make it easier on the front that like it's easier to find partners. You're not restricted to just people who live near you. So maybe you can find someone who's more compatible with your particular fetishes or kinks, which is always a positive. As long as you can meet up maybe regularly or at some point in the future and do what you want in person, that's fine. I think it can actually make sort of that honeymoon period of a relationship last longer because you don't actually get to culminate the like in-person part of a relationship very often, which can make them last for longer. But yeah, the long distance power exchange situation is not one that I have a lot of personal experience with, but I think for most people it's harder. I think it can be easier for some people. I think it's easier to do it all. It's a lower barrier to entry. It is harder to do well because it's very easy to like not do stuff and say you did. It's easier to let things slide. It's easier to role play, doing something to someone versus really doing it for realsies. And so that kind of offers a little bit of a way to extend that honeymoon period, as I was saying. I'm from every state, legit, actually, though. I've lived so many places. I don't know how to answer that question. Like in real life, if I'm on a date with somebody, they're like, oh, so where are you from? I'm like, everywhere. I've lived in the South, the East Coast, West Coast. I've lived all over. So, everywhere. I'm from everywhere. I'm everywhere, everything all at once. That's me. Yes, punishments are hot, but they don't need to be sexual or physical. True. That is definitely the case. Honestly, if you really want to make someone rethink something or learn a lesson in BDSM, make them write an essay. If they want to get super freaky, require citations. I love that. Citing the proper way to load a dishwasher according to some style guide somewhere. I love it. Perfect. Ideal. I know for me, I went from being a switch in poly to being a sub in poly and into DDLG to being a kinky monogamous person with a vanilla partner that's open to trying new things. Be gentle with yourself and use this time, which if you in your marriage, to look inside yourself and figure out what you want in your life. For sure, that is great advice. Yeah, for me, I copied what I thought it was supposed to be like, and everyone is the same. True. Yes, you popped in during the intermission, but it's over. Now we're in the grand finale, the falling action. Thanks for the advice as always. I still want to have that feeling of closure after transgressing. Yes, then I think having some kind of apology structure without having a punishment sounds like the right way to go. What are some good songs about BDSM or kink? One of my favorites is Master and Servant by Depeche Mode. I mean, Depeche Mode, anything by Depeche Mode is probably like S tier. What is that song? I feel like my most recent thing I've been really enjoying is Hypnotized by Sleep Token. There's my answer. Sleep Token is fucking thebomb.com. The best new music I've discovered in probably years, honestly. It's A+. Love it. I think that I know online people are like, oh, the fucking guy who does Sleep Token, he's so secretive, and we don't like. I think people have figured out who he is, and I think he's actually a frontman for another band, which is interesting. Such is the way of things. Also, I've been playing with tape measure. I'm gonna try to get to. Try to get to one more question here, but we're currently talking about St. Louis and broccoli cheddar soup, so it's not quite what I'm looking for. Are there apps for meeting just friends who are kinky? Not that I know of. I know, is it Bumble? One of those apps has a specific friend version, and I've never used it, but I'm curious how many people on there are kinky. But otherwise, there's not really any apps I can think of that are friend-oriented. OkCupid is always really nice for fun, casual dating, and also just making friends. It's almost like a legit blend of being a dating app and a social media. Yeah, I know a lot of people who use OkCupid to make friends, too. I don't use it that way, but I know people that do. Check out Bloodywood song Dana Dan. I almost typed Daddy Dan. No. Okay, I'll check that out. Oh wait, is this the one? I think I saw this on my YouTube homepage the other day. Is this like Indian folk metal, right? Oh, that's I'm excited about listening to that. I'll put that on the gym playlist. That'll be fun to listen to. Okay, one more question, then I gotta go. Who will it be? Who will it be? Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know any mutual aid, like, there's, like, networks I could recommend that are, like, general, like, national ones for domestic violence. But I would love for that to be a thing. How the fuck did you fill up 98% of your Gmail? Judgment, goddamn. Because I have a very busy email inbox that gets full of YouTube spam, and also, it's all of storage for Google. So, like, it's not just my email by itself, but it's also, like, when I send video files or, like, YouTube backups, that counts for the storage limit, which most people will never have to deal with. I want to know what you're going to say about Mormon/LDS. I was like, well, I don't know if I want to say that all Mormons are homophobic because I haven't interacted with very many current Mormons. I've interacted with a lot of ex-Mormons. Holy shit, there are a lot of ex-Mormons in Portland. But I haven't, and polyamory as well. But I don't know anything about, I don't know about their specific beliefs. So Mormonism is problematic. That's all I have to say about that. But, you know, what else is new? Ooh, I'm from the UK and I just went to my first kink event last weekend with my partner. Don't have any kinky friends, just wanted to share somewhere because I'm happy about it. That is great. I hope you had a great time, Georgia. Thanks for sharing. Why is everything so expensive? How do we fix this economy? I think we start by making my dog the president. That's going to be my proposal. I'm going to install Bandit as a lifetime dictator. And I think that'll work. I don't call it we're going to do a whole like you know, the kid who became president thing, but we're going to do it with my dog, okay? The Constitution doesn't say that dogs can't run for president. Listen, if a woman can vote, a dog can be president. Oh, God. Okay, I gotta make sure my dog's not behind me. All right, speaking of dogs. Oh, you're so sleepy. Oh, goodness. Hi, baby. Hi. Ooh. Oh, we're grumpy. Oh, I'm sorry. I know. We're grumpy. It's okay. We're grumpy, girl. Oh, sweetie. Oh, I know we were. She's like, just let me go back to sleep. Just let me go back to sleep. Anyways, there we go. Make her president. That's my answer. So you're just like, boop. Aww. Yesterday you were so lively. Yesterday you were bouncing off the walls. And today you're like me, you're just tired. You just want sleeps. I know. Pomeranians are Polish is true. Are you Polish? You didn't tell me you were Polish, Bandita. If you're a foreign national, you can't be president. She is very precious. All right, girlie. I'm going to torture you for 4 more seconds, okay? Just... you're just looking at me and you're like, why are we doing this? What's happening? I'll give you a little kiss. She has that look in her face when she's like, I'm just tired. I don't know what we're doing. All right, there we go. Just gotta make sure everyone knows that she's doing okay. She's definitely the nap queen for sure. There we go. Relaxing again. That's good. Okay. Anyways, I could pet my dog for hours. I could literally do it for hours. Okay, so we're gonna go. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me on this Friday night. If you would like to, please subscribe so you can see future streams on Fridays at 6 o'clock, as well as videos. And that's more or less it. Stay safe, guys, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. I know, I said bye. How dare I? How dare I? All right. Good night, guys. All right, bye.